With the recent moves and lack thereof by the Chicago Bulls front office, today I'm going to talk about, is it safe to say and feel that the Chicago Bulls are starting to shift their priority to developing their young players? We're also going to talk about Patrick Williams' comments on his contract negotiations with the Chicago Bulls and upcoming restricted free agency, and preview today's game against the New Orleans Pelicans. We're going to do all that plus the mailbag right after this.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bulls Central, your number one place for all Chicago Bulls news and content.
What's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. I'm the host here, Haize, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Bulls Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that being said, let's go ahead and get into this content for today. So, listen, the recent moves by the Chicago Bulls, we know that they were completely quiet by the trade deadline. Then when you look at, we had a roster spot open, which, people were speculating and thinking, hey, are we going to look at, a buyout candidate, one of the veterans that was waived? The Bulls decided to move up Ernolat Batum and then go on to sign Andrew Funk to that two-way contract, right? And when you just look at kind of where the Bulls sit at right now, there are a couple of things that may be pointing towards the Bulls are going to start focusing on actually developing their youth. And one of the things that I think, if that is the case, right, we don't know for sure, we won't know for sure if that's what the Bulls are doing until this upcoming offseason, but I do think that the emergence of Coby White may have shifted what the Bulls felt their timeline was, right? You had Zach LaVine, who was the player that the Bulls kind of tried to build around his skill set, right? Bringing in players in Lonzo Ball, DeMar DeRozan, that kind of all brought things that were lacking in Zach LaVine's game. And for a half a season there, it was working, right? Now, we know what happened with that. Lonzo ended up going down with injury. Zach, DeMar, and Vooch end up having declines, this past season. Zach now goes out with season-ending surgery after requesting a trade. And so now the Bulls are sitting there looking at this young player that's emerged for them in Coby White, who's averaging almost 20 points per game for them, 24 years old, and that may have been enough to kind of shift the Chicago Bulls timeline. Now, you keep in mind, Coby White is considerably younger than Zach LaVine, 5 years younger than Zach LaVine, and so that may have shifted that timeline to where the Bulls front office felt like, hey, we got to make sure that we are competing now, right? We got to build this team now. Again, not saying that I agree with that. I do think that the Bulls, we would have been in a similar place we are right now. How the Bulls kind of took more time to build organically without giving up those first round picks that they gave out. But you have a player now in Coby White that has adjusted your timeline. So when you see things like the Chicago Bulls, bringing up Ernolat Batum, right, and maybe using it, it comes down to, is Billy Donovan going to play Batum, right? And we'll talk about that aspect of it in a minute. But a player development staff, which they installed last offseason, that's already worked with Ayo to assume you have Ayo, Kobe, who've both taken steps for the Chicago Bulls team. Kobe's taking a leap. Ayo's taking a step. You still have young players now, and Patrick Williams, who we got to figure out what's going on. We'll talk about his contract here in a second. But then even Julian Phillips, Dalen Terry playing a little bit more. Adama Sanogo being down there in the wings in the G League, right? Him with Henry Drell and now Andrew Funk, right? The Bulls are actually seemingly using their two-way contracts now to take a look at players who have a chance to develop into maybe role players for the Chicago Bulls. Now, again, I'm not saying that the players we have down on two-way contracts are going to turn into these amazing star-level players or impact players or nothing like that. But when you look at the sustainable model, right, that kind of the Miami Heat put out there, when you look at the Heat and how they've developed players, having a player development staff that is proven, that is true, that can develop players definitely allows you to kind of change your gears. When you look at how the Bulls had previously used their two-way contracts, even under this regime, there were some players down there that were like older players in college that ended up going undrafted, things like that. But this Bulls team now with their two-way contracts, Batum was the oldest player on the two-way at being 24 years old, right? But that was because he played over in EuroLeague. You look at Funk, Drell, Sanogo, they're all 23 and 22 years old. Even Justin Lewis, who started off this season on a two-way contract, a player that, played a little bit in college, but, still had a lot of promise and was still fairly young. It seems like that mindset may be shifting for the Bulls to where they are now looking at, hey, we can use our two-way contract players to develop players down in the G League that then can come up and be cost-effective role players for us. And that may be, again, I'm not throwing anybody bail here. We're talking about possible scenarios, not necessarily saying this is for sure what's being done, because again, as you guys know, when you're a Chicago Bulls fan, you can't bet on shit, right? And as I just turned on the lights. So you can't bet on anything. So that plays a big part in this as well, right? Is that, you know, this may seem what they're doing, but we got to see if it's going to come out, right? If it's going to actually come to fruition. But having that player development department, having Kobe White also take a leap this season may have now shifted that focus from the Chicago Bulls to where the young guys are going to be prioritized more. Now, I'm not saying we're going to go fully young. I'm not saying we're still going to not have vets. That's why you see people like Alex Caruso that the Bulls are holding on to. We're still going to have vets on this team, but the prioritization in their development, I think, has been more focused here as of late. Now, the person that they got to get on board for this is Billy Donovan, right? So you can have a front office that brings in young players, that brings in promising players that you can develop and things like that. But it still comes down to, if you don't have a coach that's willing to play them and invest in that development, then everything you're doing is for naught. And that would more so fall in line with what we've seen from the Bulls. It's almost like the Bulls take one step in a direction in one part of their organization, and then the coaching staff does a different thing. We haven't seen that synergy yet between what it seems like the front office vision is for these young players to how Billy Donovan is using them on the court. Arturas Karnisovas has never wavered from, for example, from Patrick Williams being a big part of his future, right? He's never wavered from wanting to see Julian Phillips and Dalen Terry play versatile roles on the court and things like that, right? But Billy Donovan hasn't necessarily played those players or prioritized them in offense, defensively, yes, but not offensively, to where that offensive skill set's kind of developing for them in the NBA game, right? So now you bring in this player development department, and I just wonder if that's where the Bulls are headed. Keep in mind, the Bulls are right up against the luxury tax next offseason. So even if DeMar walks away for free, Patrick Williams is going to be re-signed. I see some of you guys, which I'll be talking about, saying let Patrick Williams walk for nothing. That's stupid. But he's not going to walk away for nothing. And so I think you're seeing the Bulls hold on to maybe key vets that can help guide the development, but also don't necessarily take away from your ability to play some of these younger guys. But it comes down to Billy Donovan buying into it, and that's the part that I don't trust. I don't trust Billy Donovan to, like, Kobe was around. He's played under Billy Donovan now for almost 4 years. So, like, yeah, you know, him trusting Kobe to be that starting point guard, but look how many years it took to get there, right? But that happened over time, and Billy Donovan has always played Kobe White, even when Kobe White was coming off the bench. I got to give him credit for that. His role wasn't always the same as far as like him getting a bunch of shots in the offense, but he's always played Kobe, right? He's always played Pat. I would assume will earn minutes right away, right? But then you had guys like Julian Phillips, Dalen Terry, first-round picks that well, Julian Phillips is a second-round pick, but didn't play. You had Marko Simonovic, who just apparently wasn't good enough, right? So it's the questions about Billy Donovan's part of why I'm not as sure if the Bulls are really trying to shift their focus towards development, because I just haven't seen enough from the head coach and Billy Donovan to where I say he's a coach that's going to prioritize young players' developments. I personally haven't seen enough of that, but there are signs pointing to that Bulls philosophy may be shifting and their focus may be shifting some towards young players. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm just hoping and trying to read the tea leaves and hoping that this team has some sort of direction. But hey, we'll end up seeing what happens with that. But let me know what you guys think on that down below. With that said, we did get comments from Patrick Williams yesterday about his contract situation and his injury situation, things like that. And he said this.
How do you see your future with the Bulls now, given, your contract potentially restricted free agent? You're looking out toward next season. So, do you know what your future is?
I don't think anybody knows what their future is, to be honest. I would love to continue to be a Bull. I think I love it here. I love the opportunity that we have to build a culture, to build something special with this group, with this team. And I think that I could really be a cornerstone piece for this team. But you never know what the future holds. And I understand it's a business. But with that being said, I love it here. I love the team. I love the guys. I love the front office. And just like I said, the opportunity to build something here. So for now, is worried about the surgery and getting back playing, and let the chips fall where they may.
And I've seen interesting conversations with people, right? You have some Bulls fans that say things that are reasonable, like, hey, well, this should allow the Bulls to sign him on a more team-friendly contract, considering his surgery, considering his performance on the court. And then you have some Bulls fans that say things that are just stupid, like, let Patrick Williams walk for nothing. Here's what I'm going to tell you guys, right? First off, you got to understand the salary cap. A lot of fans make these decisions in silos like, oh, let them walk for nothing. We can spend that money elsewhere. Not realizing that the way that the salary cap works and your ability to re-sign your own players with going over the cap but still staying under the luxury tax is why you don't just let a player that's 22-year-olds like Patrick Williams walk away. Now, I'm not saying the Bulls should pay him whatever he wants either, right? Now, there is a case and scenario if Patrick Williams is truly coming to the table with his representation, trying to break the bank, then you look at signing trades. You say go and find your deal out in restricted free agency, and we may match it, right? So you may get into those type of scenarios, but letting Patrick Williams walk for absolutely nothing, a 22-year-old player who still has room to grow and has taken, has improved some, but still has tons of room that he needs to, and things he needs to develop on. But when it comes down to it, you got to ask yourself, the Bulls offered Patrick Williams a 4-year, $64 million contract, would have averaged out to about $16 million per year that Patrick Williams turns down. Now, it's believed, not necessarily, I think that's kind of come down some before, but it's been talked about that Patrick Williams and his agency was more looking at a deal like DeAndre Hunter's 4-year, $90 million deal that he got with Atlanta, which would come around to $20 million annually. Now, the fact is that, like I said, I know a lot of Bulls fans are thinking, oh, well, sign P. Will for this low amount. His qualifying offer is $13 million. He's not signing for less than the qualifying offer in $13 million, not with this team, right? That's not going to happen. So because of that, that means that negotiation period is between that $13 and $20 million, the bare minimum to the high end, right? And I think that's going to come somewhere in the middle of that. That's kind of what I've been saying. And so while Patrick Williams says great things like he wants to stay in Chicago, and I respect that he loves it here, that's what he's supposed to say. And even him saying like, well, I don't know. I don't think anybody knows what their future is, especially in the NBA. It's not always in your control. But if this team is truly pivoting towards that youth and development of the young players, they definitely aren't going to let Patrick Williams walk, and they're not going to let Patrick Williams walk for nothing either way. So that's your hope. If that's your real thought process, that you think the Bulls should let Patrick Williams walk for nothing, got to ask you, what the hell are you smoking? But with that said, we'll end up seeing what comes of this. And I do think that it is a tough decision in front of not only the Bulls front office, but Patrick Williams and his agency, because you have to be realistic in the fact that, listen, for whatever it is, your player is averaging role player numbers. That's it. You're getting role player money. That is what you have shown, role player money, right? That's it. And it's up to you to show that you're worth more than that deal. And that is why I've been saying, and I do think that Patrick Williams is probably not going to sign longer than a 3-year deal. Probably not. And maybe there's a 4th-year option, maybe it's a 3-year option, whether it be team or player. But there is an absolute possibility that ends up being where it goes. And we'll see. We'll see what that means for the Bulls' long-term future and outlook as well. Now, with all that said and out the way, we do have a game tonight against the New Orleans Pelicans, and this is a game that's going to be interesting. Now, the Pelicans, for what it's worth, Brandon Ingram and Zion Williamson are listed as questionable for this game, where CJ McCollum has already been ruled out. But even without that, the New Orleans Pelicans are the 15th ranked offense in the NBA, averaging 116 points per game. They're the 10th ranked rebounding team in the league, averaging 44.4 rebounds per game. And they average 11 offensive rebounds per game. They don't show a whole hell of a lot of second chance points, which is weird enough. And then also, they aren't a team that take a lot of three-pointers. They actually take less three-pointers than the Chicago Bulls. They're taking 32 three-pointers per game. Now they do hit it at a respectable clip of 37.5% hitting it from three. So while they don't take a lot, they make them at an efficient enough level. So you have to add, with the Bulls coming in here on the defensive side of the ball for the Bulls, what they're going to have to do is what they always have to do. Keep the Pelicans off the boards. And that's on both sides of the ball. If you keep them off the boards, you're definitely going to help yourself. CJ McCollum being out already helps you offensively as well with this team. So that's a big part of it. But this is still a team that likes to spread the ball around. And we already know if you get Zion Williamson going with the head of steam, he's almost unguardable in the NBA. And unfortunately, we don't have the forwards that are on paper enough are going to be able to slow Zion Williamson down at all. This is going to be an interesting game to see what the Bulls do with Andre Drummond as well in this game. Do they put him on Zion some? If they play him and Vooch together, what are they going to do there, right? Because while we started Alex Caruso at the power forward last game, and Alex Caruso is a hell of a defender, don't get me wrong, but guarding Zion, I don't know if I necessarily trust that, right? But this team is going to have to come in with a defensive game plan, rebound the ball well, try to force turnovers where you can. And if you can do that, I think the Bulls' defense can stand the test enough against the Pelicans on the offensive side of the ball. But then you got to look at the Pelicans on defense. They're the 8th ranked defense overall in the NBA, allowing 112 points per game. They also force the 7th most turnovers in the NBA they force their opponents to have. So the Bulls are going to have to protect the ball. Protect the ball. Get as many offensive rebounds as you can as well to get those second chance points. Get out in transition so you can score easy before the Pelicans defense has a chance to set in. But that half-court defense, It's going to have to be poignant and well, potent and effective. You're going to have to do that. That means we're going to need Io to hit his threes. We're going to need Alex Caruso to be effective from three. And Kobe White cannot have a slow game, regardless of who's starting or not for the New Orleans Pelicans. I need to see Kobe White come out. Now, don't get me wrong. Jose Alvarado is going to try to cause fits for Kobe, starting in place of CJ McCollum. He's going to try to do that. And Herb Jones, Herb Jones on DeMar DeRozan is going to be interesting to watch. And if Kobe does get hot, especially towards the end of the game, don't be surprised if they switch Herb on to Kobe White at times. That is going to be interesting to match. The chess match of tonight's game and how Billy Donovan and this coaching staff play this, probably the most important parts of the game. And we'll see how the Bulls can stand up to this. Again, you guys know I don't predict wins or losses for the Bulls. I just talk about scenarios and what they can do. And this is a game where the Bulls have shown enough on both sides of the ball to be able to take care of business and fight wits with the New Orleans Pelicans, especially with them missing CJ McCollum. But this Bulls team can't come in with their heads up their ass. You just can't. You have to be willing to effectively play, and don't let yourself get down on yourself when the Pelicans, if they do get out to a run. So let's hope that the Bulls can come in here, they can take care of business against the Pelicans, and we can get a win. We lost 2 in a row. You don't want to lose 3 in a row. Now, while the Atlanta Hawks and the Brooklyn Nets are still losing, we have that space created. You don't want to. You want to start capitalizing on that possible space, so you can hold on to your spot. But all right, with that said, it's Sunday, so that means it's still mailbag day. We're gonna go ahead and get into the voicemails. This one's from our brother Corn.
Hey, what's good, King? It's Corn, man. Let's get into it, man. Let's get straight into this. Yesterday game, against the Celtics was very frustrating because to me it was the inevitable. I've been saying this, man. I don't know. I don't know if we even gonna make the play. I don't know. I'm nervous. We should. I hope we do. I don't know. I'm like 60-40 on it. I'm like 60% sure that we might make the play. And this has to be said. And we need to start saying this. AKME, I can't believe I'm supposed to say this. Right now, as we speak, are worse than GarPax. This has to be said, and we need to start saying it. I never thought I would because when AKME first joined on, huge fan of them, come from that championship pedigree, I understand why they like holding their players. You know, you had 2 big-time injury-prone players in Michael Porter Jr. and Jamal Murray that you stuck with. But this is not that. We should have made trades for Drummond. We should have made trades for AC. We should have made trades for DeMar. We might be losing DeMar and Drummond for nothing. If you could have got 3 second picks, you should have took it. They're impactful on this team, but they'll be more impactful on a championship contender team. It's going to be the same. So this is why I'm confused with this front office. I'm really confused. I'm upset, and I don't understand what the fuck they're doing. At this point, we're going to lose DeMar and Drummond for nothing. And I don't know if we could have traded DeMar, but Drummond, we could have traded to Philly for 3 seconds, and they said no. It's time to start calling this front office, at least GarPax gave us an Eastern Conference championship. We're not sniffing one with AKME, bruh. So it's time to be said. AKME is worse than GarPax. Appreciate you, King. Blessings.
Will the Bulls make the play-in? Well, statistically, everything's still in favor of the Bulls. The Bulls would have to have a massive fall off to completely miss the play-in. Keep in mind, we have a 2-game lead over the Atlanta Hawks, who are on a 3-game losing streak. We also have a 5-game advantage over the Brooklyn Nets, who have lost their last 4. The Brooklyn Nets would have to win so many games to leapfrog the Bulls to push them out of the play-in. So while I understand your concern on the Bulls not making the play-in, it's statistically still in favor of the Bulls making the play-in. So we'll see. They would have to have a massive fall-off, and we've seen that happen before. So you're not outside the realm of worrying about that fall-off happening. That absolutely is something that could happen. Now, as far as losing Drummond and DeMar for nothing, here's what I'll say. The DeMar part, I've talked about this a lot, Corn. I think that they're playing the odds, right? Either you're going to re-sign DeMar, or a team that really wants DeMar is probably going to be over the salary cap, and you can get a sign and trade. Now, and even with that said, if they lose DeMar for nothing, that's not necessarily the worst thing. The Bulls, where their salary cap is right now, that would allow them to basically use their full mid-level exception, which then could bring in talent still. So there's that thing. If you would have traded DeMar at this trade deadline, if there weren't any expiring contracts offered in that may be why the Bulls shut that down. Because if a team was offering a contract that still goes into next season, you're not really gaining much flexibility. And I don't think DeMar was going to get offered any like first round picks or anything like that. Now, if a first round pick was on the table for DeMar and you turn that down, then absolutely that's wrong. Now, as far as the Drummond part of it, I mean, the thing is that if you re-sign Drummond, it all goes away, right? If you don't and you really got offered, because it's gone back between 2 and 3 first round picks that the 76ers actually offered, that's you've done better in the second round. That's definitely mad questionable on what you're going to do. Now, is AKME worse than GarPax? I listen, I've had an in-depth discussion about this before on the channel. Here's what I'll say. Paxson, when he was alone as GM, no, AK doesn't sniff that. But GarPax, when they came together, it's still almost neck and neck to me. Yeah, GarPax, I think Taj even was already here before Gar Foreman took over. I could be wrong on that. They drafted extremely well. They drafted much better than what AKME is drafted, and that there so is almost enough to say that they were better than GarPax, but they drafted talent that then they couldn't develop. They couldn't fit the team together well, and it's almost in the same exact spot. We just went out and got trades of players that didn't fit together. So the draft aspect, though, is what may be the thing that separates the two front offices the most right now. They still drafted fairly. We still had tons of mistakes. Denzel Valentine, a mistake, right? That was definitely a mistake. Marquise Teague, definitely a mistake, right? You got to look at those type of players, but then of course you got the Gaffords, who still very effective, right? You got Wendell Carter, who is not good. Wendell Carter's not good. He goes in the negative, not in the positive standpoint there. Larry Marketed, yeah, they then decided to. You can't just look at it as player personnel. They doubled down on Jim Boylan. That also gets you an idiot as a front office, right? So it's a lot of negatives from both. And I think sometimes we conflate the Paxson run with the GarPax run, and we look at those things as two things together. The GarPax run was very different than the John Paxson run when he was by himself. But here, they also had more time. And AKME and AK and Eversley are not going to have more time if they don't improve it for sure. And let's see where we can end up going, man. But all right, let's go ahead and move into the next one. The next voicemail is from No Sage.
CEO Haize, No Sage from Hip Hop Heads. Just some quick stage thoughts. I saw that Batum was signed to the Bulls now officially. I actually got to see him at the Windy City Bulls game in January, and he actually was on fire that day for about almost 20 points. But man, it's just wild being a Bulls fan right now, bro. It's like I honestly have to attribute a lot of my coming back to the franchise with your fandom, because when DeMar was king of the fort, that's literally when I got right back with the Bulls, like as far as like being locked in, and you know, being that my kids are coming up in these little dribbler basketball leagues to kind of help feed my fandom as well. But still gonna rock with the Bulls, ride or die. But I guess my last fleeting thought is that it feels like, besides being the mediocre franchise that everyone jokes about and the punching bag, it's like they're selling us on this hope, man. I know, like, the nostalgia always happens, but it feels like every player that we have, they're on the brink of greatness. And whether they get injured or whether they don't live up to that greatness, that's neither here nor there. But just the hope of it all in every situation, every player, just is enough to sell tickets, I guess is what I'm saying. So it's just kind of sad. But that's about it, bro. Just I'm happy that you're still posting episodes, and I know you will continue to do so once you hit your landmark next month and even to the end of the season. So thanks again for everything. Be Red. That's about it, bro.
I think No Sage just be calling because he just wants to talk. I got to give No Sage my actual phone number, because I think the dude just wants to talk about the Bulls sometimes. What am I supposed to do with this on the voicemail, No Sage? What am I supposed to do with this? You didn't ask me a question. What am I supposed to do? You just want to hang with your boy? You can come hang with you. No, I'm just, No Sage is one of my friends, but I gotta mess with him. Always being on the brink. I won't say of greatness, right? The only time I thought we were on the brink of greatness was the Derrick Rose era. And had Derrick Rose never went down, I do think that they would have been able to put a championship team together eventually. But we've always are on the brink of being around the corner, right? Turning that corner. And we don't quite get there. And I think it's the doubling down, right? We went out for the immediate success, right? Not the long-term sustainable success. When you trade for vets and you give up first-round picks, that's usually flash in the pan success. Usually, most teams that do that, you got a 3 to 5 year run. And if you do it correctly, that's if you do it correctly, right? And that just didn't work out for the Chicago Bulls. And so, yeah, there's hope around this team. Kobe White is one of the main reasons for hope around this team, but there's also mad reason for doubt and mad reason for question what this front office is really going to be able to do. But let's hope that we have more clarity this offseason. Let's see. All right, let's get into the next last voicemail for today. This one's from Shay.
What's up, Haize? Look, man, I heard about Patrick Williams and what happened. He's out for the season. This is a damn bummer. Furthermore, I don't know how to feel about this Bitim signing. Yeah, he's good for the future, but as of right now, I don't know if he could help us. And not to mention, we already got enough guards. I feel like this is just a lazy signing just to say that they did something. Especially when Derek Favors is currently a part of our G League team. He could easily help us at the power forward spot. And I'm just now remembering that. I don't know, man. Maybe I'm just overthinking it, but I like Bitim. I've seen him a little bit in the G League because, Tubi has live G League games, but I mean, I don't know if he's necessarily ready for the NBA yet. But hey, that's just me. Anyway, tell me what you think. Peace.
Can Bitim signing help us? Yeah. I think when you look at a 40% high volume 3-point shooter, that absolutely can help a team that needs 3-point shooting more than anything. The bigger question, like I talked about in the first segment, is will Billy Donovan play him? That's the only question. I have no doubts that Bitim, it may be a rocky road, and there's only 26 games left, so maybe it's rocky there. I have no doubts that Bitim can help the Bulls. The how much he can help them now, that depends on how he adjusts to the NBA game. But Billy Donovan's desire to play him, that's the thing that I doubt, and I don't know if Billy Donovan's going to play him. And did you really just say Derek Favors? Derek Favors couldn't help the Bulls much at all. Like, what are you talking? Derek Favors, bro, come on. It's 2024. Derek Favors ain't helping nobody. Derek Favors is barely helping himself. We helped him with getting him a deal so he can get some money. He ain't helping the Chicago Bulls, bro. Come on, Shay. What we talking about, bro? What we talking about? But thank you guys so much for leaving those voicemails in for today. I'll be back today. It's game day, so we'll be back live for the pregame, halftime hangout, and postgame shows all live on the channel, so make sure you guys stay tuned in for that. But that's my time. Follow the show at Bull Central Pod. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, bullcentralpod@gmail.com. Lastly, if you want to leave a text message and or voicemail, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We are the number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related, thanks to you guys. And like I like to end every episode on, go Bulls. Love you guys. See red if you can, y'all. Peace.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.